What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Knives of the Round Table. And today we're going to be talking about the Rick Hinderer knives XM-18. Now, it was very hard for me to hold off in making this video because the XM-18 is one of my favorite knives. So, spoiler alert, there's going to be a lot of positivity here. But I wanted to get a couple of reviews and a couple of other videos under my belt before I jumped into this one, because there's a lot to digest with the XM-18. I also thought about doing the Rick Hinderer knives brand overview first, but because so much of what Rick Hinderer does is the XM-18, the brand overview was going to be heavily skewed towards talking about the XM-18. So I decided to do this one first, and then when I do the brand overview, I'll just refer to this video for you to, if you wanted to dive into the XM-18. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to release this video, and then I'm going to do the Rick Hinderer brand overview, and I'm going to refer to this video in case you want to see more of the XM-18. Now, the XM-18 is it's a difficult knife to review because you never know which knife exactly you're talking about. See, the one that you have here is a custom version of the knife. So that's one option. Now, are we talking about a slicer grind in working finish? Because that's kind of a different knife, right? Or are we talking about a spear point with a stonewash finish? Well, that's kind of a different thing also, right? And you have many more options. That's a swedge spear right here. So it's hard to decide, what knife you're evaluating. So I'm going to go through those options that you saw there, and it's one of the things that Rick Hinderer, one of his mottos or his mantras is make it your own, and he has spent considerable time, effort, and money into giving us the ability to make it our own. So, for the most part, the custom is kind of a rare bird because there's not a lot of them, and this one, as opposed to the other ones, it has different blade steel. It's a little bit of an older knife. This one I got in the secondary market. So for the purposes of this video, I'm going to refer to the later generations of Rick Hinderer knives. So let me get this one in here. So the Rick Hinderer knife, it comes in two sizes. It comes in the XM-18 3.5 inch, and that's the one that we're going to be reviewing today. We're going to do a review of the smaller version of the knife. That's the 3-inch version of the knife right here. It comes in two sizes, but the 3.5 inch, it refers to the blade size, and most of the time they come in 20 cb. Some of them are M390, which is kind of what you see here, the same thing. The overall size, I want to say 9 inches, 8.25 inches for overall size. But if you know my preferences, 3.5 inch blade is kind of where I draw the line. I have some knives that are a little bit bigger than that, but for the most part, I try and stay at 3.5. And it's because at 3.5 inch, you get your full grip on the knife, and but still you don't have this large unwieldy blade that you have to deal with. So let me, before I dive into talking about the knife, let me just give you the size comparisons here. That is the Benchmade bug out, and that is the mini bug out. So a much larger knife than both of them. You have, this is the version with a choil. There are versions with no choil. I don't know if I have a version without the choil. Let me see. Yeah. So this is a version without the choil. So with the choil, you're looking at close to the same edge, but without the choil, you got significantly more edge on the Rick Hinderer. It's also thicker than the bug out. The scales on Rick Hinderer knives are pretty thick, and the blade. So if we're looking at the paramilitary 2, that's what it looks like. So significantly larger than the Para 3, but not really much bigger than the Para 2. You know, if you they're probably, I would call them the same size. It carries a little bit better because the Para 2 is the length in that direction is usually bigger. But you know, I think if you enjoy carrying a Para 2, I think the XM-18 will carry very similarly. So when Rick Hinderer says to make it your own, well, he means what he says, okay? Because you can get the slicer grind. That's a spear point. That's a switch spear. That's a Skinner right there. And that's only a couple of the options. Besides this, you have a spanto that you can get. You can get a full-edged spear. The full-edged spear is similar to what you see here in the. So this is the 3-inch version of the knife, but that's the full-edged spear. You can get that in the full-size version of the knife. You can get a harpoon spanto. You know, it's a compound grind with our harpoon at the top. You can get a Warncliffe. So many different options. You can get in stone wash finish, or you can get them in what he calls his working finish, which is like this bead blasted matte finish. And so you can get them in all of those. The lock sides you can also get in a whole bunch of different configurations. So that's the working finish. This is a special edition, the Continuing Series. This is stone washed. This is battle bronze. But you can also get blue anodized that kind of looks like that. You can get black. You can get battle blue. So the number of options, you know, the permutations of knives that you can get with Rick Hinderer, there's people that just decide, you know what, I'm just gonna collect XM-18s, because there's so many variants of the XM-18 that you can spend your entire life and money just collecting variants of the knife. What you can see here is I have titanium scales for all of these. They come with a G10 scale. It's a G10 scale with a titanium liner. The titanium liner matches the lock side, and so these are, well, I'm gonna call them aftermarket scales, but they are original from Rick Hinderer. So you get them as a separate thing, but you can get them direct from Rick Hinderer. You can get them with a horse, textured, non-textured. This is in battle blue. This is in stonewash blue. So many different options, and that's without getting into the pocket clips and the filler tabs, which is in itself just if you see that one, that's an niobium filler tab. That's in itself its own religion. It's crazy. So the ergonomics on the XM-18 are excellent. I wear size large gloves, and it fills my hand perfectly. It guides you to where your finger should be. You know, you got this finger groove up front, and the rest of your fingers just fall perfectly. There's jimping that is non-aggressive. It's really well done. That follows to the blade, so your hand kind of locks into the knife. The versions with the choil, I actually like quite a bit, because it's a very good choil that you can really get into to do some finer work. So most of the ones I have have a choil. This one that I have this is the skinny version, as denoted by the S here, and it's this one doesn't have the choil. but it still carries a lot of the ergonomics of the regular XM-18. The action, I think that's where the Rick Hinderer makes a lot of difference in today's marketplace, because when Chris Reeve, he introduced the frame lock, right? And now, if you can imagine the amount of knives that have the integral frame lock in their knives, it's staggering, right? It's something that permeated the entire knife community, and that's something that I wish happens with the Rick Hinderer invention, and that is the tri-way pivot. You see those three dots? Did you see right there, connected by the lines? You see them in a lot of the knives. You will not see it in this one because this one is an older generation of the knife. But in any Rick Hinderer knife that you see the tri-way pivot system, okay, what that means is that included with your knife is the option to make it into Teflon washers, into phosphor bronze washers, or bearings. You have the option. If you think you're going to be using your knife in a very gritty environment, in a lot of sand, a lot of dust, and you want to put phosphor bronze washers or Teflon washers, you can do that. If you think, like me, I just work in an office and I don't have a need for that, then I can have it on bearings and have outstanding, drop shut action in my knife. It's so smooth, and they're so well made that when I talk about action, so a lot of times with knives you just say whether the action is good or whether the action's not, it is bad. But with Rick Hinderer, not only is the action good in the way that it feels, the action is good in that you can pick your action. You can pick whether you want it to be a phosphor bronze type action or a Teflon washer or bearings. And the fact that you can pick is just it's incredible, and it's something that I haven't seen a single other knife maker do, and that's why I think Rick Hinderer knives have a special place in my personal collection, because the tri-way pivot. So in the XM-18, it's generation 6 and above is the ones that have the tri-way pivot system, but that leads to a lot of people calling the half track or other of his knives the Jurassic Gen 6 because they have the tri-way pivot system, when in fact those are in previous generations but already include the tri-way pivot system. So if you want to have that option, all you have to look for is that symbol, okay? And there's a version of the knife that doesn't have a flipper tab, and I prefer flipper tabs, but in case it doesn't have a flipper, you'll find it like right around here. That's where you'll find the tri-way pivot symbol to make sure that it's one of the newer generations. Now, fit and finish, they are outstanding. When I joined the knife community, the big three, or what people were calling the big three, were Strider, Chris Reeve, and Rick Hinderer. At the time that I joined, you couldn't really get Striders anymore. They had stopped their regular production. So I can only experience Chris Reeve and Rick Hinderer. And while Chris Reeve's action is hydraulic or glassy smooth, it's more of a slow rollout. Rick Hinderer's action, especially when you do it on bearings, is just incredible. It just deploys really well. You can do it thumb stud, you can do a flipper tab. I can't really do a reverse flick on them. The detent it's a little bit strong, but the action is really good. Fit and finish is outstanding. You take it apart, you put it back together, it comes back perfectly centered. I've done that many times. He encourages you to disassemble it, and in fact, so much so that one of the things that you can make it your own is the hardware. All of the hardware that you see on all of these knives is one that I bought afterwards. the handle nuts, the handle screws, the pivot, the filler tabs, these other screws, the pocket clip, all of those are things that Rick Hinderer sells aftermarket. If you wanna change the look of your knife. So all of these color combinations that you see here are combinations that I came up with. I decided, and if you ever get to the advanced version of collecting Rick Hinderer, the Crusader stuff from Steel Flame is just incredible. These are really hard to find. So he's so confident in his fit and finish. Yeah, the back spacers you can also change. He's so confident in his fit and finish that he encourages, take it apart, change everything on it, and it'll come back together. Put a different scale, put this one on this knife, and it'll still work. So there's when knife makers do that, when they give you the ability to disassemble their knives and reassemble them, it talks a lot about their tolerances and their confidence that even if you take your knife apart, there's no way to screw it up and putting it back together. Now, there's not a lot of grievances that I have with Rick Hinderer. As you can see, I have an extensive collection of XM-18s of just the 3.5 inch. I have five versions of the knife. So there's not a lot I dislike. Do I wish they were a little bit cheaper? Yeah, sure. But then you also can't argue with the quality of the product that he puts out, the ability to just, it's unlikely that in the entire internet you'll find another knife like this one. Okay, the stonewash with the purple handle nuts with the niobium. Now, I had this. This is an original scale, but I had it engraved by Curtis Berry from Midnight Sun Industries. This is an original scale, but this version of the knife is kind of a special edition that he does, the Containment Series. And I got the COVID filler tab on this with the biohazard handle nuts. It's taken a lot of time to get this build finished. This one basically just has the titanium scale with hardware, and I just like that combination of colors. The skinny version of the knife I did in blue and purple with a titanium handle scale. The skinny handle scales are hard to come by, so all of this can be achieved. It's not hard, but if you want to get into Rick Hinderer and you want to collect these type of knives and get to collecting that edition of the knife, or getting some of the rarer things like the Steel Flame stuff, you have to become a part of the Rick Hinderer community. Now, in all honesty, I believe that the Rick Hinderer community is probably the best community in the internet, because everybody's trying to make the knife their own. It encourages a lot of collaboration, a lot of talking, a lot of trading back and forth, a lot of selling, and a lot of buying, and that just fosters a community that is just very welcoming. And I have good friends in that community, and even though I haven't been collecting very much, so as you can see, there's a lot to the XM-18, and I didn't want to make the brand overview all about the XM-18. In fact, I debated whether I should include the skinny. This one's going to get his own video. I debated whether I was going to include the 3-inch. This one will also get his own video. But if you ever have $400 or $450 and you're thinking, which knife should I get? This would absolutely be my top recommendation over the Zabenza, over the Riyadh knives, over all of those, because this knife, you're gonna be able to, get the knife you want. If the G10 scales, they come in all colors, so you're gonna be able to get the knife you want. But not only that, if in the future you decide, you know what, I want to change it a little bit. I want, different hardware, different scale. I want micarta. I want carbon fiber. I want titanium. I want to change the color of the screws or the pivot or anything like that. You're gonna have the ability to do all of that, and that just makes for a very versatile knife, a knife that you don't get bored with. Disassembling these and putting them back together and doing combinations, it becomes just another level of the hobby of knife collecting. So, guys, as you can tell, I'm a fan, and sometimes it's hard to do an objective review of something that you're such a fan of. But that's what collecting's all about, right? It's about enjoying your hobby, and nobody likes to review a crappy knife, right? And just reviewing the XM-18 is just something that I couldn't put off any longer. I enjoy this knife quite a bit. So if you enjoyed the review, if you have any questions, there's probably a lot of questions that you want to ask about the XM-18. I'll do my best to answer. If you want to know where to get all this stuff, just ask, and I'll try and let you know my best advice on how to get all this stuff. And I'll tell you, I see you guys again. And if you enjoyed it, like, subscribe, and I'll see you at the next one.